So we are back with part 3 of LaDasha Diamond's life story. And we're going to talk about something that's not often talked about, something very deep, something very personal to a lot of people. And it's something called NPD, which is also known as Narcissistic Personality Disorder. Thank you so much for being open enough to talk about this. This is not an easy topic to talk about. And it can be very emotional, but we're going to jump right into it. So for those who don't know, what is NPD?
Okay, NPD is Narcissistic Personality Disorder, and it is a personality disorder.
Okay.
And many people suffer from.
Can you explain how you learned about this disorder?
Right. Well, growing up, I've always heard about narcissistic tendencies or narcissistic traits, but I didn't know there was a narcissistic personality disorder. So when I thought of narcissistic, I always thought about like rich white kids, like somebody from like Beverly Hills who had an expense account and a trust fund. So trust fund babies are what I will always think of when I thought about narcissistic or narcissist. But what I learned by experiencing a very toxic relationship, I come to find out that I was dealing with a narcissist, a person who suffered from narcissistic personality disorder.
So when did you find out that you were dealing with a narcissist? What was the first sign that you were in a situation of that magnitude?
Well, the funny thing about it is God is so good, and I would just like to start with that. God is good, right? All the time. All the time, God is good. Okay, so I was dating a guy, or I was like a prison pen pal to a guy in prison. And guys in prison present with a lot of different behaviors. So I was on a site called Quora, and it's a site for people to ask different questions. And I was on that site for prison reentry and just dealing with guys in prison. And one day, narcissistic personality disorder popped up on the feed. And I wasn't even paying attention to it, didn't really notice it until later. I got in this relationship around 2019, and some of the things that were happening in that relationship had me questioning my reality and had me just kind of feeling like a little bit off, right? And at the same time, I was seeing things from Quora talking about NPD. So as I was going through this relationship and its challenges and its toxicity, at the same time, I was studying NPD. And what was ironic is a lot of things I was experiencing was being defined in the narcissistic abuse cycle. And I realized I was in a narcissistic abuse cycle with a narcissist.
So upon finding out this information or just reading something that you like, hold on, wait, I think I'm in a situation like that. How did you feel in that moment?
Oh, I felt trapped. I felt tricked. I felt bamboozled, right? But I also felt empowered. And the reason why is because I was able to put definitions and experiences with these names, these labels, like gaslighting. I didn't necessarily know what gaslighting exactly was until I got into this relationship and I started having these experiences. So while I'm reading Quora and it's describing gaslighting, I'm like, am I being gaslit? So I felt conflicted. One sense I felt empowered and like I knew what was going on, and in another sense it felt really dangerous and really unsafe.
So once you had discovered this and you felt all the feels that, people feel when they realize something, did you find or seek help or advice?
Initially, I was just kind of observant. I was an observant participant. So what I was doing was just observing the person's behavior and comparing it to the narcissistic abuse cycle. And I was also using what they were saying to do to minimize and decrease like the symptoms of MPD. So I was actually working with my narc, unbeknownst to them. While at the same time, I was still affected by the love bombing phase, and I thought I was in love. But at the end of the day, as you'll find out later through this cycle, that was all a trick. It was all a facade. And in this situation, the person wears a mask. They wear a mask and they present you with this mask. But as the mask begins to fall, you begin to see them for their true selves.
You talk about love bombing, and that's a term that we began to hear in the last maybe 5 years. Can you give an explanation of what exactly love bombing is or looks like?
Yeah. So, when you meet somebody, you might identify with the honeymoon stage.
Yes.
So it's similar to the honeymoon stage, except this has a negative malintention behind it. The intention is not to fall in love and mutually be in love. The intention is to manipulate you and gaslight you into a relationship so now you can be used and abused. So the love bombing feels natural, but it's not. So it's just a bunch of compliments, telling you the things you want to hear. You're beautiful. I want to be with you. I've been looking for someone like you all my life. We're so compatible. I found my soulmate. All these types of things. So it's reeling you in. The love bombing is bringing you in to the trap.
So do you think with those things that people say, is that something that happens over time, or do you think that it happens super quick? Like, oh, I'm in love with you. I want to be with you. You're going to be my wife or husband or whatever.
That's a red flag right there. So in normal situations, the person would gradually work through these emotions and feelings. But with a narcissist and during the love bombing phase, it's rushed. So you're rushed into this relationship. You're rushed into this emotional windfall of feeling in love. And it's all with these intentions to hurt you, destroy you, and use you.
All right, so this is another deep question on topic. Can you share the experiences that led you to realize that you were in a toxic NPD relationship?
Yeah. So one of the things when you're dealing with a narcissist is triangulation. And I wanted to talk about that. And triangulation is just like it sounds, tri, which is 3. So there's always going to be a third party in your relationship. So the reason and the way I started noticing something was wrong was third parties kept popping up. For instance, why am I going outside to my windows being busted in my car? Right? So if I ask, well, what's going on? Are you dating someone? Oh, my ex can't let go. So she's coming and busting our windows out of our car because your ex can't let go. So I'm like, okay, so that was a form of gaslighting because you're lying. Your ex doesn't let go because you're still dating your ex. So that's something I have to figure out with time. But that's one thing, triangulation. Another thing was the gaslighting, right? And then things that you can't really explain. For instance, I'm missing a credit card out my wallet, or I'm missing my keys out my purse. Things like that, because they want to distort your reality to make you think you're going crazy. That's what gaslighting is.
So how did you decide to stay or go?
Right. So when you realize you're dealing with somebody of this psychosis, right? Disease, disorder, you actually realize that this person is very volatile, very unsafe, and very insidiously dangerous. So if you're smart, you're going to play your cards, right? So that you can walk away with your body intact. Because you might get maimed, hurt, killed, stabbed, shot, beat up. Definitely mentally and emotionally abused. But like I said from the beginning, the part that makes a lot of people stay for a long time and get stuck is the love bombing. I'm going to tell you once again, that love bombing is the key to keeping you stuck. So the better the beginning is, the better the love bombing is, the harder it is for you to see everything else. So it's going to be hard for you to see gaslighting if you're so love bombed. You're like, oh, his ex-girlfriend just can't let go. I know, he's such a wonderful man, right? I can't let go either. So I understand she's busting your windows because, she just can't let go because you're such a great guy. So you're going to fall into that. You're going to fall into the lies and the gaslighting of, oh, I don't know where your purse is, even though me and you are the only ones here. Okay, I'm just going to say I lost my purse and forget it, I lost it, So a part of that is it'll keep you stuck and staying because this person presents as such a great person. And a lot of times they do have great qualities and talents and abilities. And you might want to be a part of that, you know what I'm saying? But their character is flawed and their intention is malicious. And that's what you have to know beyond any love bombing. That's why self-love is the best love. And you have to love yourself enough to say, you know what? I love you and everything, but my safety is non-negotiable. The lies, the cheating, the third parties is one of my non-negotiables. So it's you have to know yourself and you have to trust yourself, and you also have to basically have a lot of courage because it's scary dealing with someone like that. Someone who might jump in front of the door. Where do you think you going? And things like that, because they do a lot of their tactics based on fear. So they're going to put a lot of fear in you. And the way they do that is through the triangulation, the third parties. So they will use something called a flying monkey. This is what they call a person who's being manipulated and used by the narc to trap you, set you up, and continue to destroy you and keep you tied to them. Wow. And that's when it really gets deep, because you really don't even know who's coming at you, who's who, and who's working for this person.
And so you also, within all of that, I think about like smear campaigns. Yes. Can you elaborate more on that aspect? Maybe is it people going on the narc going online, saying things about the person in a relationship with, having other women say things about that? Can you expound on that?
Yeah. The thing about a smear campaign, you don't know exactly what's happening because you're not in the conversation. They're smearing you behind your back. So what I do know is basically they get everybody who knows you, people who you trust, people who you had relationships with for years, your family, your friends, your closest friends, and they start with them. They start lying on you. They start telling them, oh, I'm worried about this person. Oh, they're exhibiting these mental health problems and they're exhibiting these behaviors and they're using these substances, when the whole time it's them. They're projecting everything that they're doing to you and everything they're doing, period, onto you. And then the people around you who are weak enough, because that's what I call them, you're weak, to believe something that a new perfect stranger is telling you about someone you've always known. And what I did, I killed 2 birds in one stone. 3, 4, 5, if you will. If this narc was able to get to you and lie to you about me and have a smear campaign going on about me that you believe, I'm cutting you off too. Because that means you already had an underlying hate, beef, envy, and jealousy towards me to allow you to believe something so full of crap. Now, new people who don't know me, you get a pass. You don't know me. But I would say, a word of advice, just being an adult person, you need to figure things out for yourself and not let somebody just tell you something about somebody that you don't even know without doing your own research and figuring it out for yourself. Because a lot of times people are lying.
So you talk also about the flying monkey. That's an interesting concept. Can you expound more on what the role of a flying monkey is?
A flying monkey basically is, once you're at that part of the narcissistic abuse cycle, pretty much when you decide that you do want to leave, there's a part in there called the Hoover. Now, the Hoover attempt is a way for the narcissist to pull you back into the toxic relationship. So say you caught them cheating and you're like, I've had enough, I'm out of here. So you gone, you out the way for a couple weeks, they cheating in peace and everything. But after a while, of course, that relationship's going to dwindle down too, right? The love bombing fades, the discard starts, the devaluation happens, and then boom, now they're hovering back to an old supply. So all they do is go around from supply to supply to supply, because you're not in a relationship with a narc. You're a supply to the narc. So that's energetic supply, sexual supply, financial supply, whatever it is, supply. So basically, they're not getting it from you. They're getting it from someone else. When they're not getting it from them, they're going to hoover you back in. And a lot of times they use a flying monkey. So the flying monkey can be used in any kind of way. It could be your kids. It could be, go tell your mama to call me, go tell your mama this, or give your mama this money, and whatever it is to make it look like he's doing his part. Mom, why you mad at Dad? He just gave us some money. Right, but he just slapped me last night. You don't know that, child, so stay out of grown folks' business, right? Or he might use your best friend against you. You know she been coming home late. You know she been cheating on me. You know she been doing this and that. Or you know she's been using drugs and I had to beat her last night because she was going off. Just lies. Lies. So they just basically gaslighting your friends and the people around them to get to you. To use them to get a reaction out of you or to use them to hurt you. I mean, they can lie and say, she hit me. Go get her. And these flying monkeys will come to save the day and they'll go fight for them. And that's the dangerous part because it's all based on lies, deception.
So do you think that there's levels of NPD? Because, some people can say, they might do some of those things, but they're not all the way at 10. So is it like all at once, it just kind of comes out? Or is it like, does it build up? Or it's like, okay, this person is at level 3 for 2 years.
Yeah.
And so like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, you got it. So because it's a personality disorder, just like the autism spectrum, there's a spectrum. There's covert narcissism and malignant narcissism. So a malignant is more open with it and a covert is more under with it. So you might be with a covert narcissist for 20 damn years because they're so sneaky and sly and you don't know about it. You're not educated on it, so you don't know what the red flags look like. You just think you're going on a rat race on a treadmill with this person. A lot of times you've seen these relationships. On again, off again relationships. He cheated, had baby over here and there, and then they still back together. Come on now. You know something off about that. But a lot of times it could be narcissistic abuse or narcissistic personality disorder. Not every time a person who exhibits narcissistic traits, like we all do it up to some extent, like being a baby, blowing my way, throwing a temper tantrum. It's narcissistic, but when it becomes a personality disorder is when you're intentionally seeking to hurt people and destroy them. That is the trick. That is the key. That is the difference. And yes, over time, you get more deep into your narcissism. Just like you get deeper into your drug use, you get deeper into your sickness when you are using drugs. You're going to get a higher tolerance. Yeah, they're going to need more supply. They're going to do more stuff. First, they slapped you. Now they're beating you. Then they're kicking you. Now they're cutting you. Now they're shooting you, okay? You don't want it to get that far. You want to catch it, nip it in the butt, and get away. And these people, the sad thing about it is, the whole point of them, they don't want people to know who they are. That's why they wear the mask. They don't want people to know who they are. So at all costs, if you are telling who they are, you may die. You may get hurt really badly. They might send somebody to set you up. They might pay somebody to put a hit on you. It's very dangerous. And the reason I'm speaking on it is because I've suffered from it. Not being able to sleep at night, having people coming after me, the flying monkeys being sent to me, saying different things to me where I know where it came from. And I'm not really even mad at y'all. I just wish y'all would recognize that someone's lying to you, manipulating you, and using you. That's all. Because they couldn't use and manipulate me.
So how did you manage to break the cycle?
Actually, learning about the cycle is what helped me break the cycle. Education, horror, and YouTube videos. I watched a guy named Harry-O. Harry-O suffered from a narcissist for about 20 years. He was married to a female narcissist. And the female narc can be even worse than the male narcs from what I'm hearing. But having support groups on narcissism and learning about the cycle. That is how you break the cycle. You have to be aware that you're in it, what you're going through, and actually how to respond to the narc in a way that diffuses them, like it, in a way that's not going to fuel them up, but like deflate them. So they are big on grandiose idea of who they are. They believe they're like God himself. They believe that they should be praised. They believe that everything's about them. So if you kind of start pulling back on your praise or your admiration, that's why love bombing is important. My definition of love is admiration for someone, or respect and honor. So it started with love, respect, and honor. But once it became unequal, unrequited, where I'm giving more than I'm receiving, I start pulling back. And as I'm pulling back, I start observing your response. How are you that angry? How are you responding to me like that? I've done this, this, and that for you, and this is the thanks I get. So I start noticing this ain't adding up. This ain't adding up. So I'm pulling back more and more. But as I'm pulling back, I'm noticing things in my life starting to fall apart.
So what are some of the consequences of a person staying in a narcissistic relationship?
Yeah, from what I hear, it's not very good. So the whole point of a narcissistic relationship is supply. So if you're a narc supply, then that means they're an empty vessel. So all you're going to be doing is pouring your self-love into an empty vessel, or a cup with a open bottom. So it's just going in and out. It's never filling them up. It's never fulfilling them. That's why they need so much supply. So all you're going to do is get drained. You're going to lose yourself in the process. You'll probably get beat, hurt, financially used and abused, drained. You probably won't notice yourself. You're going to lose friends. You probably lose your mind. Your health is going to go bad. And it's just not good. It's not, nothing good can come out of it, period. If you have kids, I would say that might be the only thing good that can come out of it. But then you have to watch those kids for having those same narcissistic traits, because DNA spreads.
It's true.
And then you have to watch how they treat those children, because children of narcissistic parents, they don't get treated well. They might look like it on the outside, like clothes and money, but emotionally, that emotional sympathy, empathetic, it's not there. They don't have the ability to have empathy. That's what narcissistic personality disorder is. The inability to have empathy. So they don't care what you're feeling. They don't care what you're going through. It's all about them. So imagine being in a relationship like that that's unrequited and it's not being reciprocated. You're just going to feel drained. And eventually you're going to be unable to function properly.
So you have this beautiful shirt on, this beautiful queen. Can you talk about who she is, who she was, and lift her name up?
Yes, this is my little cousin Regina Grady. And she was killed by her long-term boyfriend right before he turned the gun on himself and killed himself. Classic case of toxic relationship. A person who stayed too long, 20 years, 4 children later, and the person felt like she was his all in all. He could not live without Gina. If Gina's gonna leave him, he can't live without her. So his mind told him, kill her, because he don't want no one else to have her. And once he killed her, he killed himself. Now there's 4 children without both of their parents. And this just happened last year, 2023. So I'm speaking out against narcissistic personality disorder and abuse, the toxic cycle that many people suffer in silence and face. And people who suffer from this, a lot of times no one believes them, what they're going through, how serious it is. And it's very insidious. If you don't know what that word is, look it up. Insidious is just like really secretive. They're very secretive. Everything's done methodical. It's like a MO, modus operandi. They're very dangerous, insidious, malicious, evil, demonic, and criminal. The stuff they do. But it's really hard to prove. So rest in peace, Gina. I love you.
Do you believe that a narc can be helped? Do you believe that there are any resources for people who deal with NPD?
I believe anybody can be helped if they want help. I follow one narcissistic person on YouTube, and this guy literally is a proclaimed narc who's been through therapy. He knows he's still a narc, but he's in therapy, actively in therapy, and he's working on it. So it's just like an alcoholic. If you know anything about AA, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. The way they present is, I am an alcoholic. I don't care if I'm 15 years clean, I am an alcoholic, right? So with narcs, they're always going to be a narc. They can get better, but I will say this, no. For the most part, hell no. They will not get better. They will not change. And I'm saying that to save someone's life. Because most of the time, us women, men too, but majority of the time women, they think that the man's going to change and we can change him and our love or our pussy is going to change him, when it's not. You're going to be dead or really messed up or mentally out of it. So it's best to just accept this shit for what it is. They have a personality disorder. There's nothing you can do about it. It happened in childhood. Some trauma happened and they wired them wrong. And they decided to go that route and be evil because they felt like that's how they got their needs met. Being manipulative, evil, liars. That's how they got their needs met when they were little. So I forgive them, but I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to have nothing to do with them. I want them to stay far away from me. And what I did learn from that is that there's an energy signature with them. A person who wishes you nothing but bad intentions is not good for you. It's not good for your highest good. And being around that type of person, you will feel that energy off. You'll feel it. You'll know something's off. You just have to trust yourself enough. And being under the influence with them is not a good idea. Because you want to be in a sound mind. You don't want to be under the influence. And a lot of times they are under the influence.
So as someone who's a survivor, how did you begin the healing process for yourself?
Okay, thank you. So the first thing I did was pray. I asked God, I was like, God, I know this isn't for me. God, I don't deserve to be treated like this. God, help me get out of here. And I remember my grandma's story about my granddad and when she left granddad because he was drinking a lot and cheating and fighting her. And she said she prayed to God to get away from him. So I did the same. That was the first thing, pray. The second thing I did was tell somebody that I can trust that I was in a bad relationship that was very toxic and scary, and I was afraid for my life. And I told my children and I told my family, my aunties and my uncles. I didn't tell like my brothers yet, but I told my children because those are the closest things to me and my aunts and stuff because those are the people that take care of our funeral arrangements. And I just wanted to make sure that these people knew that something was going on with me. The third thing I did was educate myself a whole lot on NPD, abuse, and how to fight them, how to break a narcissist down. And a lot of that has to do with no contact. No contact is the key for healing from a narcissistic abuse cycle. No contact is not answering the phone, not following them on social media, blocking them, not going into areas where they are, not dealing with people who y'all dealt with together. Just no contact. And that sends a message to a narc that you are no longer willing to play their game.
So as we're diving deeper into healing, what is your personal healing regimen to overcome narcissistic abuse?
Okay, so I put together a healing regimen that includes yoga, prayer and meditation, journaling my thoughts and things that happen that is weird, like losing my jacket, my car breaking into, writing this stuff down because you might find a pattern. Okay, writing it down because you might not remember. And writing it down because someone might try to gaslight you out of what you know is true. So I did a lot of journaling. I did a lot of nature connection, just going out into nature in isolation, like being by myself, pulling my energy back to me by being alone, doing the things that I love to do, and realizing what was my energy signature. What is my energy on my own? So that I know when I'm in a situation with someone else, what their energy feels like versus mine. So if I'm feeling anxious, scared, depressed, angry, I know that's not my energy. That's not my energy, and I can refuse it. I can return it to the sender. I can not engage with that. That's not my energy. Just spiritual baths. I did a lot of healing baths. So with herbs and oils in a bathtub and just rinsing myself off, rinsing my aura off, rinsing all my energetic body off from that person. And just far as sexually, I had waist beads. I cut those waist beads, broke the trauma bond. And as far as my vagina, you can do herbs. You can do a cleanse with herbs for your vagina, a steam, suppositories, whatever you might feel like you need to cleanse your womb area and cleanse your body. So I did a lot of those things and getting really back into like my prayer and reading the Bible and just reading the Bible, a lot of Psalms, protection prayers, and like promises of God.
What was your intention of sharing your experiences? Was it healing for yourself? Was it to help save somebody else? Was it just to release it?
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea of just releasing it. I feel like when you go through any type of abuse, you sometimes feel alone. I did. I felt isolated and alone. And I think that's what the perpetrator wants you to feel. They want you to feel isolated. They want to shame you. They want you to feel so bad that you won't reach out to anybody for help. And because I'm an arts activist, I'm a women's empowerment coach and a artist, a musician, I feel like I have a responsibility and a duty to speak out against injustice of any and all kinds. And I've been speaking out against injustice. And once I declared that I was going to be a women's empowerment coach, I didn't really have a deep story like this. I had me and my baby daddy, and I can't say now looking back, he may have suffered from narcissistic personality disorder, but I don't think it was to the extent of what I just experienced in 2021. And like you said, are there degrees to it? I do believe there are. I believe at the time my baby daddy's degree may have been a lower degree. But shit, he's older now. Who knows where he might be now with it? I'm not with him, and I don't know. But the person who I recently dated, I feel like they're in that thick of it. You know what I mean? But also I feel like when you need someone like me, so my intention is for healing, for self-healing, for awareness and education to anybody that might be having these symptoms or these signs, these red flags, that it has a name on it. There is a cycle and it's going to lead to your destruction. So I want to save someone's life. I want to save their children's lives. And as far as the narc, I can say that there's no hope for them, but that would be a lie because I know the God I serve is a miracle maker and there can be hope. So my hope and intention is that maybe me leaving, maybe me standing up for myself could also wake that narc up to their self, to their abuse, and to their childhood trauma that got them there. And maybe they'll get the healing that they need as well. Because they deserve it too. They deserve to be healed. Their family deserves to experience the higher version of them. You know what I mean? And that's what I fell in love with, what I thought was the higher version of them. But what I realized and found out later in the narcissistic abuse cycle, that love bombing is a mirror of you. So when they're love bombing you, they're just studying you and they're mirroring you right back to you. So that's what let me know how much I was worth love and how lovable I am because I fell in love with myself. I fell in love with myself. That person put my face on and mirrored it back to me. And that just let me know how worthy I am of love, right? And then they're going to take my face and go love bomb someone else and take that person's face and love bomb somebody else. But the more you love yourself, you'll recognize those red flags and you'll walk away.
Do you feel that everyone has the same narcissistic traits? You talked about, in some ways that everybody has some kind of, whether it be level 1 or level 10, but do you feel like all those traits can be the same or can they differentiate?
They differentiate. Everybody has some type of narcissistic traits. It happens as children. You see little children cry and they want to throw a tantrum for the things they want. You're not going to call them a narcissist, but they're doing narcissistic traits. They're manipulating you to get their way. That's a narcissistic trait, period. When it becomes NPD, like I said, is when you lack empathy That's one. You can't care about someone else's feelings. You can slap someone and watch them cry on the floor and tell them, what are you crying for? That's a narc. When you deliberately put an obstacle in someone's way so you can laugh at them in a humiliation style ritual, that's a narc. Okay? When you're blocking someone's ability to move forward in life because you're so selfish and only think about you and what you want, that's narcissistic, right? I can throw a tantrum because I'm like, I want my man to get me some ice cream, but I'm pretty much playing. I'm not finna go, bless his car windows and slash his tires because he didn't give me no fucking ice cream. If that's what a narc would do. Okay? That's the difference. We all have tendencies, but NPD is something totally different. It's very insidious. It's very evil. It's very dangerous. It's very malicious. And it's very, very envious. So that's the difference. And people who will lie to someone else to get you hurt, that is the difference.
And do you feel that NPD is rooted in trauma always?
Always rooted in trauma. It's just the way your brain triggers. So some people can have a trauma and their response is empathy. Like, I've been hurt before, I don't want to see you hurt. I've been raped, molested, beat the fuck up, shot at, damn near killed, but I don't want to see that happen to you. I can have personality flaws, like I might talk too loud, or I might be snappy, or have mood swings. That's a personality flaw. But a character flaw is when you sit here and try to set someone up to be hurt because you were hurt. When you want to see somebody down in the dumps because that's how you feel about yourself. That's the route they took off their trauma. And that is sad because it hurt them so bad they snapped to the evil side of things. And I think a lot of it has to do with, your caretakers and your nurturing. So if you didn't have someone there to pick those pieces up for you and help you to put it in perspective for you, then you might have done that on your own. And as a child, you're trying to navigate something. You're not going to exactly do it right without the proper guidance. So for me, I know I was properly guided by my grandma who already been through some things. She wasn't the type of person that wanted to see me suffer. I know there's some moms that want to see their daughters suffer because they suffered. Some women who don't want their sons to have a good woman in their life because they man wasn't good to them. So now they want their sons to treat women like crap because they were treated like crap. I see that. That's not me though. And I'm not going to be a victim to that type of stuff. You're not going to victimize me because you're hurting. You need to go heal that. And I pray you do.
Can you share your thoughts on moving forward after experiencing narcissistic abuse? What advice would you give yourself or someone else experiencing it or in the early stages of healing?
Yeah, I will say, get professional help because you're going to have severe PTSD. And the PTSD is because your reality was so altered and you were so gaslit and lied to. You're going to need somebody to help you put things back into perspective. Be patient with yourself and recognize you're going to have PTSD. You're going to have trust issues. But one thing I will say that helped me is that energy signature that I picked up from this. So when you're with somebody and your nervous system feels calm and at peace, then you can pretty much trust that you're in a good environment. If you're in an environment or with some people and your nervous system starts going all awry, and red flags, alarms are going off, that's your sign and signal to get up out of there. Make space, leave, call somebody, do what you got to do. And you will learn that energy signature moving forward. If a guy gets at you, they present with that narcissistic trait and it's triggering you, that's not the one. You meet somebody, you feel at peace, you smiling, it's natural. You can trust that, at least until you don't feel that way anymore. So it's hard for me to trust at this point, but I can trust myself. So I might not can trust others, but I can trust myself. And that's what I learned, and that's my takeaway. And creating a safety plan is real. Have a safety plan. Have people know what's going on with you keep that journal and have someone really safe that you can trust to share things with.
So before we wrap up, can you explain what the narcissistic abuse cycle is? So for someone who's either never heard of it or they don't fully understand it, they can get some clarification through this piece.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked. I really learned it. I know about it now. It's a trip that I actually went through it, and while I was in it, I really kept saying, I wonder what the last part of this looks like. Because I had went through all the stages except the last one. And that's where I'm at now, and I know what the last stage looks like. So here it goes. The first stage is love bombing. The first stage of the narcissistic abuse cycle is love bombing. Everything seems so good to be true in the beginning. And it's all throughout it is gaslighting. You're being gaslit throughout the whole cycle. So love bombing. And then what you're going to get is devaluation. So once you're put on this pedestal in love bombing, the devaluation is to break you down. So sad because they put you all the way up there. And now they're going to start chiseling and breaking you down with name calling, insults, gaslighting, all this stuff. So love bombing, devaluation. And after they devalue you, what they're doing during this period of devaluation is they're grooming a new supply. So while you're in devaluation, someone else is in love bombing. So once they get them right where they want them, you're getting discarded. So now you go to discard, and now this person's getting devalued, and now a new person's getting love bombed. So it's about 3 or 4 of you going through this cycle all at the same time. Okay? So while you're being devalued, she's being love bombed, and now you're being discarded. And whoever before you is being hoovered back in because now you're discarded. So now they're making room to hoover back the person before you. So that's the next part, is the hoover. So it's love bombing, devaluation, discard, and hoovering. All in between this is gaslighting. And what they're going to use is flying monkeys against you. And then the smear campaign. So if this hoovering doesn't work, you're getting smeared. And the smear campaign kind of starts at devaluation because they're got to start lying on you ahead of time before they really get it to you. So they're going to start lying on you a little bit. And once they discard you, the smear campaign is already in place. So when you come back crying, crazy, why you just break up with me like that? We were just together. Now you got someone else. You're going to look crazy because they already told everybody you were. So the best thing to do is nothing. Ignore it and let them leave. When they discard you, just look at it as the best thing that ever happened to you. And because I was already prepared from watching Quora, I was already watching the stages. That's why while I was in it, I was wondering, what does discard look like? I knew I was being devalued. So what does discard look like? Okay, now I know. And then hovering. The hovering and the smear campaign is the hardest. Oh my God, the smear campaign is really hard. Because that's where everything you worked for, your whole identity, your whole reputation is just thrown in the trash by one person overnight. Everything you worked for can get thrown away overnight by one evil person. That is not worth it. That relationship is not worth it. The one thing I'll say that was work for me is learning this cycle and being able to share this with others. That's the only thing that I'm glad I went through this for.
Wow. That was deep. That was heavy. I mean, I learned, as you were speaking, I'm like, man, I think I know somebody like that. Or I might have known somebody in my life, not necessarily personally in a relationship, but just knowing people
Right.
Who've done that or who've been through that. And, I just want to thank you for sharing your experiences because this is not easy to get on camera and say, hey, I went through this with a person or people. You never know whose life you could be saving once they see this, they hear this. And I think that this is going to help so many people, but even if it helps one, it's beneficial. And I think that you telling your story is how people from all walks of life can overcome if they want to step into that space of healing, whether it be the person inflicting the abuse or the person that's the recipient.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you would like to say before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback off what you just said, I'm not coming from a place of hate or anything like that. I feel really sad that people suffer from this personality disorder because it all stems from an abuse that they suffered and a trauma that they went through. And I can understand that because I have childhood trauma as well. But I feel like the way we become better people is by acknowledging our traumas, accepting it for what it was, and healing through it so that we can help another person or generation of people go through the healing process as well, so we can all be better people. And any woman or any man going through narcissistic abuse, I would just say have the courage to get out, because you're not just helping you, you're helping them too, because it's a pattern, it's a cycle. And anytime we break a cycle, we're helping somebody. So we don't want to perpetuate a cycle. That's something I never was into way back with Street Soldiers. You either a part of the problem or you a part of the solution. When I met you, Jamel, with Silence the Violence, it was always about being a part of the solution, right? And breaking those cycles, those perpetual cycles of violence and abuse. And that's all I'm here to do. It's not to single out anybody, point any fingers. It's just to share my experience, how it impacted me. And I can go even deeper in that. Anybody want to book me for a podcast or an interview, we can go deeper into that, because that's what I'm here to do. LaDasha Diamond speaks.
And there you have it. I hope this helps somebody. I hope this brings peace to somebody. Thank you so much for coming in. Peace.
They call me Diamond cause I'm solid to the core. I rock and I roll cause my game is so cold. And I've been riding on my foes since the day I was born. I'm unbreakable, I'm unbreakable. They call me Diamond cause I'm solid to the core. I rock and I roll cause my game is so cold. And I've been riding on my foes since the day I was born. I'm unbreakable, I'm unbreakable. They call